Hello, and welcome back to What We Pod in the Shadows, where we're currently discussing season 2 of What We Do in the Shadows. I'm Raven.
And I'm Alison.
This week we are discussing the episode The Curse. But before we get into that, it would be super helpful if you could, if you haven't already, follow or subscribe to the podcast and leave us a comment or review. We'd love to get some feedback, and it would also be helpful to get the pod out to more folks if we got some more reviews.
We also have another podcast called Mojo Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, where we are discussing the classic Powerpuff Girls and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. If you would like to listen to us discuss some animated shows.
Yeah, and occasionally we discuss some more vampire stuff on there too.
Okay, so The Curse. Nandor goes through a box of old letters and then has Guillermo bring him a laptop so he can see if he's gotten any emails. Guillermo is going out to pick up a Tide pen to get blood off of Nandor's clothes. Guillermo goes back to the fake mosquito group, who is discussing killing old lady and baby vampires in order to infiltrate and sabotage their plans. They reveal they are going to hunt vampires because they have a target. An old house with lots of bats, no cars out front, and strange topiary. Guillermo is alarmed and tries to talk them out of it since it's only his second meeting, but they can't be deterred. Colin discusses secure email passwords with Nandor, who is trying to get into his Hotmail. It ends up being Impenetrable Fortress, and he sees he has two emails, one from Fandango to see The Blind Side in 2009. The next one is a chain letter from Bloody Mary that says that the reader will die if they don't forward it to 10 people by the next day, but if the reader is successful, they will get rich.
Nandor, not being very tech-savvy, doesn't understand chainmail, and he calls for Laszlo and Nadja's help. Nadja and Laszlo freak out, thinking it's a real curse, too. Nadja says curses are very common and very serious. She recalls from her childhood a man that didn't pay a fair price for goat meat and his balls shriveled up into raisins. Guillermo says he's having an easy time infiltrating the vampire hunters, but not so much sabotaging them. Claude is eager to leave because they borrowed Derek's mom's van to go hunting and they need to have it back to her by tomorrow morning. Nadja asks why Nandor even opened the laptop. Laszlo is concerned that they need to find 10 email addresses to send the chain letter to so they don't get disemboweled. They find one from a guy who works at Circuit City but aren't sure where to find 9 more. Guillermo rides in the van with the vampire hunters. Derek's mom is using it as a catering truck for a quinceanera and has a bunch of shrimp stored in there. Guillermo tries to call the vamps to warn them, but they're terrified of the phone and don't answer, so Guillermo has to leave a message. He tells them in a whispery voice to get out of the house or they're going to die, and they're convinced it is because the curse has traveled through the phone. They start trying to find more email addresses, and Nadja decides to send one to bloodyfuckingmary at AOL.com, but only gets the message from Mailer Damon saying that it isn't anyone's email address, but she freaks out because it has demon in the name.
Yeah, I think they decided to use the Fandango one too, right? That's one of them.
Yeah, because Nandor thinks that Fandango is another vampire. We also count Fandango.
I guess I didn't catch that. They go downstairs to get Colin Robinson's email address, and he agrees, so he can give the curse to the people at his work. His email address, I think, is travelbug54 at AOL.com. So back to Guillermo. The van arrives at a house that is not theirs. Guillermo worries that maybe they're breaking into regular people's house. There are odd pics on the wall of twins and a family from the 70s in matching shirts. They split into 3 groups. Guillermo goes upstairs with Shanice. They find the twins who pop up out of bed and are vampires. They go into another room where a vampire man starts up some music. They look down the stairs and Claude is being lifted overhead and spun around. So back to Colin. Colin then wants their email addresses so he can send them his newsletter. I'm sure it's super tedious and boring.
Probably.
The little small chick in the vampire hunting group realizes she's in a closet full of vampires hanging upside down. They come after her in fringe jackets. Guillermo tries to get Derek out by deflecting vampires with the cross on his necklace, but when he gets outside, he is alone. He has to go back in to save them. Claude shoots himself in the foot trying to get away from a bat. Guillermo goes around staking the vampires. He even stakes the twins. He saves the tiny woman and deflects vampires with a crucifix, then pushes Shanice out a window and jumps himself. There are a ton of vampires in that house. They go after the camera crew.
My favorite part of that is that when he does jump out of the window after Shanice, he flips them the double bird. So Derek is left behind, but Guillermo saves everyone else, and they ride back in the van in traumatized near silence. Though Shanice reminds them they still need to return the van to Derek's mom. The Staten Island vamps have finally forwarded the chain letter to 10 addresses when they hear a knock at the door and think it's Bloody Mary trying to kill them. It's just Guillermo coming back in, covered in blood, which Laszlo thinks is tie-dye from a concert. He has money left over from the Tide Pin, which Nandor decides is the unforeseen riches promised to him if he forwarded the email to 10 people. The vampires all hug, deciding that the curse is lifted and don't include Guillermo. Nandor blames Guillermo for bringing him the laptop in the first place, but still wants him to stay with him until he falls asleep so he doesn't get murdered.
Yeah, that was kind of cute. He's like, it was really scary. And then, so Guillermo wants to leave the room, but Nandor's like, you're supposed to stay till I fall asleep. So he pulls out the Tide Pen, but he's like, I'm trying to use it on all, he's like, the whole top of him is just covered in blood. The Tide Pen is not going to do anything.
Yeah, that's
for that amount of blood.
Yeah, that's for maybe you got a little stain resistant patch.
Yeah. So, I guess a pretty action-packed episode. Funny that how they kind of react to a chain letter. I guess just because of because it said curse,
Yeah.
They just kind of freaked out. And then I think Laszlo had pointed out that it said something 3 times in it, this is not a joke. And I think there was some sort of story within it about someone having their guts ripped out or something, and that's what they were scared of. But
yeah,
I'm not even sure. Did they what was supposed to be the date on this email? Why they even cared?
I don't know.
I know it's once you read it that it kind of went into effect.
Yeah.
And then Laszlo and Nadja were mad that Nandor had them read it because then they were a part of this curse.
Yeah.
It was funny. Colin was all in because he can spread it some more.
Yeah. It's I can terrorize my office with this.
So the other group, what were they supposed to be people who were into mosquitoes?
Yeah, they're supposed to be mosquito collectors, I think was their cover.
So I guess I don't know. I'm thinking they prematurely attacked this house.
Yeah.
Having not really dealt with vampires before, any of them, other than Nandor and then Shanice's roommate being turned into a vampire, but I don't even think she was. I'm not sure what has happened to Jenna since.
Yeah.
If she'd been through that whole process, where, she finally drank human blood, I don't even know if Shanice dealt with her once she was a full-fledged vampire.
Right.
They were way outnumbered. And then it seemed like they were just super scared as soon as they got in there. They weren't.
Yeah, pretty much.
Prepared enough. Maybe they should have even just tried to approach Jenna or something first. Actually study a real vampire. And maybe even just with the van, just did a reconnaissance mission. Because how many vampires were in there? It seemed 30 or 20 or it seemed
so many.
It seemed a lot. Maybe they could have found a smaller group, just kept that house on their radar, but or if they could have got some of that group separated, maybe they leave the house and they could have got 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah.
But they were very ill prepared. And of course, Guillermo kicked some butt. And it was kind of awful when they were like, oh, we couldn't save Derek, but we got to get that van back to his mom. Like, what are they gonna... Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, Derek's mom. We don't know what happened to Derek.
Probably just don't even explain it to her. Just leave the van and take off. I don't know. I guess I could ask you, like, have you ever got one of them chain letters?
I'm not actually sure, but I think at that point when I had an email, I was already aware of chain letters. So, like, if I saw such a thing, I'd be like, this is BS.
I feel like I can remember when I worked at the Ledger, like, getting some. Or, like, sometimes you even see it a little bit on Facebook where they're like, maybe not quite like this. Like, you're going to be disemboweled, but, like, to pass it on to 10 people or something. Or, like, sometimes it'll be like, for good luck, you know, you'll get money.
Yeah.
Pass this to 10 people. I'm not sure if we see the mosquito vampire group ever again.
I'm genuinely not sure after this.
I don't know if I would want to go back out again. They've, like, lost a member.
Yeah.
I mean, Derek might get turned into a vampire. He may not be dead, but I mean, I guess he is dead, but they lost one of their members. So hopefully if they do go out, that they get way more prepared. Because they were like pretty amazed by how good Guillermo was, like with the crossbow. And that was like just the week before. So I mean, it's not like it's like a year later and Guillermo checks back in and they're like kicking ass. Like they were not prepared.
They're just like, let's go kill some vampires.
It was kind of fun. That whole group looked like they were stuck in the 70s or something because the kids had like that ice skater haircuts. I think maybe even the music that one guy puts on is like maybe from the 70s, but I can't recall the song. And like the fringe and everything and like the matching outfits and like the photo.
Yeah.
The next episode we will be discussing is Colin's promotion. So that could be fun.
Yeah.
I was trying to think before, like, what he actually does. I know he's, like, in an office situation with a cubicle, but I don't know what type of company it is or, like, what his actual job is. So maybe we'll get some insight into that.
Perhaps.
It seems like he's never at his seat, though, so I'm not sure how he's getting a promotion, but he bores someone into thinking that or something.
Or bores someone to death, and then he gets that promotion by default.
Yeah, or like everyone else quit or something because he keeps putting them, or he gets them fired because he keeps putting them in a coma. So he like gets himself a promotion. Yeah, that way or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm not sure I remember this episode or not. If I looked at the episode description, maybe I'd remember it, but I'm probably not going to do that.
Yeah, we'll be surprised.
Yeah.
I feel like before Colin wasn't like one of my favorite characters, like first time through, but I've been enjoying him this time. I think maybe he's kind of like a little forgettable or like bland, like at first glance, but then if you really pay attention to him, he's like it's kind of funny and sneaky and like, and maybe I hadn't noticed before, like him, like the instances where he's like sucking up the energy.
Yeah.
While he's boring or the people. So yeah, I've found him more entertaining this time around.
I think we're ending our discussion here. Thank you all so much for listening. And once again, if you haven't already followed or subscribed to the show, do that. And of course, it would be super helpful if you could leave us a comment or review, depending on what platform you're listening to this on.
Push all the buttons.
Yes, push all the buttons. So I guess all that's left to say is until next time, remember, you're dead and out of this world. Goodbye.
Goodbye.